Welcome to Chicago's Morning Answer. Dan and John Cass from the Chicago Tribune in for Amy J this morning.
The lovely John Cass to you. Man.
Lovely and leggy. And
18 inches long.
Another big number posted on jobs for June, just as we had an unexpectedly positive and big number, a couple million jobs in May. AP reporting 4.8 million jobs created in June, dropping the unemployment rate more than 2 percentage points down to 11.1%.
Somebody told Joe Biden in the basement while he's having the pudding.
That's got to be terrible news for the cultural Marxists and the including those in governor's mansions in blue states as they hope to keep things shuttered and the economy idling for at least the next 5 months. For more on what those numbers mean, by the way, simultaneously, it was projected that we'd see 1.3 million in new first-time filings for unemployment benefits this week. So, again, 11.1% unemployment, that is a lot of unemployment. That is a lot of unemployment. We still have a long way to go. We are still in the early stages of, I think, fully assessing all the damage we inflicted upon ourselves with these lockdown policies. However, it seems difficult to dispute that these are positive numbers yet again that indicate some movement in a positive fashion on the road to recovery. But let's get an expert opinion on that. For that, we will go to our friend Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott, thanks for joining us. How about that 4.8 million jobs number?
Yeah, you're right. It's the Democrats won't like to see that. Anybody that wants to stay locked down won't like to see it. And it beat expectations. We were looking for 3 million. And obviously the unemployment rate at 11.1% was also better than the expected 12.3%. So that's the good news. And, it took me about 25 years of my career to figure out what to trade. Do I trade what I think is going to happen or what is going to happen? And you have to kind of be careful because the headline is making the market pretty happy. But underlying, we've got some negative hourly earnings numbers. That's not good. Continuing jobless claims. Now, we're up to, 19.3 million there, people out of work, and we had more initial jobless claims. So we've had first-time filers of almost 50 million, just 49 million and change. So, this is a stab wound, and we still don't know how deep it is. And the negative news keeps coming in. It's not a negative news train. It doesn't come that fast, right? It's like a negative news aircraft carrier. Every day we get buffeted by a wave of something that's not very good. So before everybody gets out over their skis, these are good numbers because they're much better than expected, and 4.8 million people is nothing to laugh at. You're right. 11.1% unemployment is still horrible.
But nobody expected. Few people expected, including cynics like myself, and I think you. I wouldn't really call us cynics; I call us realists. But those who would view us as cynical on the speed of recovery, few people expected plus 6 million jobs in May and June.
No, they did not. The shocker was the last jobs report we had was the absolute shocker, and that also. There's a term in our business called short-termism. When you get surrounded by all this negative news, you really start adding to it and getting out over your skis, and then you get slapped in the face with something that might be more realistic, and that's what happened the last time around. And this time, not so much, right? We were on the right side of the guesses, the 3 million number. We came in at 4.8, which is still a big increase, and that is fantastic. But I still say that this is going to be with us till the end of next year. This is nothing that we're going to get out of. This V-shaped recovery, I don't know where they're getting this from, and I love Larry Kudlow, but I just can't imagine what you're thinking when you talk about that, because all I have to look, I'm a common sensocrat, right? I grew up working on my dad's farm. If it's raining out, you don't get in the tractor and go plant because it's raining. It's that simple. And so when they tell me about this V-shaped recovery, until we have the stadiums full, the restaurants full, retail outlets full, subways full, buses full, we're not getting back to where we were. That's the bottom line. And so until that happens, we're going to have a little bit of a drag or a lot of drag on our economy. And that's the bet. Which one is it, little or a lot?
Well, we'll never have the subways full, are we? I don't see how do you get down to work to your office on this train Who does that? Who's going to do
Yeah,
that?
well, exactly. Well, you get to your office, and then there's 50 people waiting to get up to the 8th floor, and there's only 4 people allowed per elevator.
So how do
I
you
mean,
do
I think
that? Commercial real
they're
estate, all that.
I don't know. I mean, if you're Sam Zell, what are you thinking right now about all the things you own in every big city? I mean, there's got to be an earth-changing way that we do things, and we're still kind of coming to grips with that, And look, I remember flying the first day you could fly after 9/11, and I thought no one ever is really going to fly again. This is terrifying. Well, within 10 years, we were setting records. So I don't know about if we'll never, ever get back on the trains and buses again, but it's not happening to the tune of a V-shaped recovery, that's for sure.
President Trump did an interview with Fox Business yesterday, and he was asked about his support in principle for a phase 4 stimulus, another round of checks to Americans. Listen to what he had to say. I want to get your comment.
Phase 4 and what might potentially come later this month. Another round of direct payments for individuals. Do you support that at this time?
I do. I support it, but it has to be done properly, and I support actually larger numbers than the Democrats, but it's got to be done properly. We had something where where it gave you a disincentive to work last time, and it was still money going to people and helping people, so I was all for that. But we want to create a very great incentive to work. So we're working on that, and I'm sure we'll all come together.
You want the direct payments larger or the uninsurance benefits larger?
I want the money getting to people to be larger so they can spend it. I want the money to get there quickly and in a non-complicated fashion. And they wanted to make it too complicated. Also, it was an incentive not to go to work. You'd make more money if you don't go to work. That's not what the country's all about. And people didn't want that. They wanted to go to work, but it didn't make sense because they make more money if they didn't. And we had some of that, and so we don't want to have that. We want to have people get out, and we want to create a tremendous incentive for people to want to go back to work.
On that and the uninsurance benefits, Mitch McConnell yesterday signaled his support for an extension, the $600 figure. Do you agree with that number? Do you think it should be less?
We're getting together. We're going to meet tonight, and we're going to make a determination, but it's going to be a good number, a substantial number. People are going to be very happy.
I'm a bit confused
Where does the money come from?
I'm first of all, I'm just a bit confused by what the position is. So it was a mistake to pay people more to not work than to work. That's what the president said. Then McConnell wants to extend unemployment benefits. He's asked if the $600 is the number. And he said, we're going to get together and figure that out. So he seems to be a little bit on both sides of the issue, plus suggesting another round of stimulus checks to Americans that will be bigger than the $1,200 per person that was distributed last go around. What's your assessment of the need for anything on the order of what was discussed there?
Well, I'll say the naughty thing first. The best round of stimulus that we could do right now would be open everything up. I mean, and get a hold of ourselves and stop the hysteria. But failing that, which is politically unacceptable, he's in an election. That's why he's talking about getting these one-time payments and making them big. I don't think he'd be talking about that if there wasn't anything coming up in November. I do believe that he understands that these payments that everybody's been getting on top of their unemployment has been keeping people out of work, and when that stops, there's going to be a lot to pay there too. So I think that he's thinking of two things. Number one, I got to get reelected. I'm going to do another big stimulus. And number two is I don't know if I can afford to let these unemployment benefits run out before the election because that is going to be a bad thing too. So as much as he probably doesn't like them and paying people not to work, and that's a problem for employers, and at the same time giving your great grandkids money to these people right now as a one-off payment, he's probably thinking both of those in an election year, and he wouldn't if it wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean, right, but it seems to me that you have to make a clear statement about paying people. You want to extend unemployment benefits, that's one thing, again, because of the damage that was inflicted upon the American people, people losing jobs through no fault of their own, through the fault of their government, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
But the idea of paying people more to not work than to work, that has to be a Maginot Line.
Yeah, but that's been going on. I mean, I remember going in the tavern with my dad, asking some guys to do some fence posts, and they said, how much you paying? And whatever he said, I remember as a kid, them saying, well, the government pays me the same to stay home. So, I mean, that's not a new problem. That's been going on for a while. So it's just a bigger problem now.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Scott. The fact is he's got not fact, but your analysis that he has to gobbledygook this because If it runs out before November,
He's in trouble.
he's in trouble, and therefore the Democrats are going to, you know what? You want to get saved on this issue till November? Well, then you might as well bail out our cities. You might as well bail out our cities.
Well, I mean, I think that. Well, I
You
mean,
might trade. They're going to trade something.
look,
Manny.
look. I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to bail out government in order to provide disaster relief to private citizens and private businesses.
This is about winning elections, man.
Well, I know. So put the money right in the hands of private citizens and private businesses. What votes is he going to get from bailing out the city of Chicago or the city of New York?
It's not.
None.
Zero.
Right.
Zero. But in order to get it through, yeah, go on.
Well, no, remember when you were younger and you'd walk through a store with your mother and it would say, "You break it, you own it."
Yeah.
That's my new mantra, because what business can afford to be shut down for three or four, a quarter of the year or a third of the year? Nobody puts that in their business plan. So if the government hits that shutdown button, that's the government's choice. All right. So if I have a little shop in a strip mall, I tell the owner of the strip mall, I can't pay my rent. The government just shut me down. The owner of the strip mall, who's got a mortgage on the property, has to go to his bank and say, I can't pay the mortgage because the government shut my lessees down. Now, then the bank has to go to the government and say, you broke it, you own it. So you can't expect the average American to have to pay for a decision that the government did, which no one would ever put in their business plan. That's what makes me angry. The poor, it's a $20 trillion economy, and if you hit that button and you shut everything down, you break it, you own it. And it has to flow up, because I have a lot of friends that own businesses, a lot of people that have little shops and little strip malls.
Yes.
Where does that buck stop? It has to go back to the people that made that decision. So yes, they do have they do have a loyalty to pay something or get these people going somehow. And I do like that maybe one-off payment check, fine. But it's an election year, and he's going to have to. John, you're right. He's going to have to gobbledygook something together to get over the line. However many people he's going to have to drag with him. And then when he gets on the other side of that line, he can take a breath and go, okay, this is what we're going to have to fix.
Well, let me ask you this. We talked to Jovita Carranza, the administrator for the Small Business Administration, on the show yesterday. And it's rather surprising to me that there's still $130 billion left to be distributed in the payroll protection program. I know that 5 million small businesses have accessed that program. The first tranche of money went very quickly, but the second tranche is not going as quickly, and I don't think it's a bureaucracy issue. Does that speak to maybe that a lot of small businesses are healthier or are figuring out other ways to bridge this moment around the country than originally anticipated?
Maybe you just don't know if they all just shut shop and gave up.
Maybe. Well, that could be the other reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing pretty bad horror stories right now about people not even coming. Bankruptcy is one thing, right? That should be. People should look at that as a positive, because they're just restructuring and try to carry on. But how many people just shut it up, gone, forget it? It's over. And I've heard that restaurants, 33% now of restaurants will not reopen. So there's a lot of the numbers in there. People, I'm not going to take the money because my business is over.
Yeah, it's actually a good point, too. I mean, thinking it through a little bit, right? So the second tranche comes 4 or 5 weeks into this. And as we know, particularly with restaurants, you don't have more than 4 weeks of cash, if that, on hand to survive if you're closed.
Yeah,
and so
it's like showing up to D-Day on June 10th.
But listen, you have to pay. Good one. But you have to pay, Scott. You can't only have 25% of the tables in a restaurant. Only 25%.
Okay,
but do I have to pay only 25% of my taxes?
no, the good news is you get to lose money more slowly.
Yeah, exactly right.
I don't see the media making that a deal. The media doesn't
they're not
make
smart
that a
enough.
deal.
I want to know who's in that room. I want to be in there with Larry Kudlow, and I want to see who's nodding their head like a bobblehead when they say, how about this? We're going to allow businesses to open up to 25 to 50% of capacity, which would equate to 25 to 50% of revenues, and expect them to pay 100% of their overheads. That sounds like a great idea to me. I want to see who's saying yes to that.
Yeah.
What clown is agreeing to that? Because that's insane. But people, here's the Stockholm Syndrome part of it, John and Dan, is that people are excited that their government's finally allowing them to be open to 25% of their revenue.
I know.
That's like
It's insane.
That's like they act like dogs that have been locked in a trunk for 2 days, and when you finally let them out, they lick your face.
But is this a local?
I haven't had a maitre d' lick my face yet, but it's yeah.
But is this a local? I mean, I understand your reference to Kudlow, but is this national or is it a local issue with the governors and the mayors and the county board people and their taxes?
I think it's
How
probably
is it a national? How is it a national?
I think it's national, but some are worse than others. You know, right now I'm in Scottsdale. Ducey's tried hard. He got slapped because we've got a ton of new cases from young kids, but less people are dying, but nobody cares to hear about that. And I'd like the government to start reporting non-fatal car crashes every night, too. That would help me out a lot.
Yeah, well, you know, the way you do it, though, I mean, all the economists in the media, you're 25% or 50% capacity, and then you just charge $600 for that martini. No problem. That's how you make up the difference.
Or you're going to have to say, I mean, this is going to happen. It's already happening, actually. You know, you walk in, okay, yeah, we'll open up to 25 to 50% of our capacity. You make a table reservation for 7. You show up with your group. Number one, there's contact tracing. Where you been? How long you been here? We have to take your temperature. And oh, by the way, here's your plastic, plexiglass. You sit down, and then the waitress or waiter comes up and says, and by the way, you got to be out of here by 8 o'clock because we got to start turning these tables over.
The papers are freaking about Blackbird. We're losing Blackbird, which is a great restaurant. But you know what? Yeah. How many diners are you losing? That's a
right. You got 25.
I'm in the media.
A quarter to 1/3 of restaurants we've heard from New York. Yeah. We've heard in Chicago, same thing. I mean, it's just and it's just like whatever. We'll muddle through. It'll be fine.
No, we're not. No, we're not going to muddle through. And the problem. And one more last thing I'll say is that the American psyche has been so bruised, and the media has got these people so scared that 33% of Americans, even if given the all clear tomorrow, would still stay in their homes because they're afraid. So you've already gotten rid of 1/3 of your customers just out of fear, let alone even if you were 100% open. So what these people are getting exactly what they wanted. They've scared everybody to death, and it's going to slow the recovery, but for sure.
He is Scott Shellady, Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott, thanks for joining us.
All right.
Appreciate
Have
it.
a good holiday weekend, guys.
You too. Take care. And you join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
As we spend more time in our homes, it's never been more important to ensure that the air we are breathing is healthy. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer of Permaseal. Up to 50% of the air you breathe upstairs originates from your basement or crawl space. Our PermaDry air filtration and dehumidification system creates healthy air by maintaining a level of humidity that helps prevent the proliferation of mold spores and viruses, and removes airborne dust, allergens, and bacteria. Because we believe healthy air is essential to a healthy home, we are now offering our PermaDry system at our lowest price ever. Call today for a free evaluation so that you can breathe easier. 800-421-SEAL. That's 800-421